All right, so on your discussion prep sheet on the rubric side, I want you to remind yourself what are the skills that you're going to practice here in good discussion. Good discussion using your discussion connector statements. Look on your desk right now, pick out at least one or two discussion connector statements that you think, you know what, I haven't used that one very much. I'm going to practice using these kinds of connectors so that I can help our discussion be deeper and richer and connected for that collective understanding of our group. And look on there, check. Well, actually, mark the ones, the skills that you think, yep, I'm going to do that for sure. Mark a few that you think, ooh, I can try to do that one. Well,
I'm confused by what you mean, like general textual evidence.
General textual evidence, like if you say, remember when Lieutenant Coulter beat Pavel. That's general. You're not making it specific, and you're not quoting, but you're using basically some general evidence that came from the text. Thank you. All right. And remember our good discussion skills as a collective group that we're not, you're not talking to me, you're talking amongst yourselves. Building this collective understanding, there isn't a leader, you're all responsible for being involved. Okay. I will put on, let's see, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20. Unfortunately, I'm gonna only put on 10 minutes for your discussion, which you guys have always said you need way more than that, but because of our time, I can only give you 10 minutes. All right, and you may begin.
Okay. Why is judging mostly negative? I think for the past, people judge in a negative way instead of a good way. Like the Jews were being judged in a negative way.
I agree with Kira, but I also disagree because we are influenced by others, which means we might be influenced by them, because some people might be influenced to think that the judgment has to be bad, because a lot of times your parents might yell at someone, a random person, you never know, but that's pretty judgmental, just yelling at them.
I agree with Kira, but I would like to add to what she said. I think that judging is negative because of how someone sees you as, or as how like you can act, or how you dress, or like how people like see you as in like the outer, like the world and stuff. But because I saw that's how it was also from like a text in The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. The Jews would always get like judged because they were Jews, so they would get judged.
I agree with Kira and Cadence, but I think people are negatively thought of because they're either getting made fun of or looked at things they did wrong. And then my evidence was people judged Jews for some reason, and then they got influenced to kill them.
I see where you guys are coming from, but I disagree, and I think that it's because when you look at someone, you see the bad things. Because like on page 106, it said, his skin was almost the color of gray, but not quite any gray that Bruno had seen before. He had very large eyes, and they were the color of caramel sweets. The whites were very white. And when the boy looked at him, all Bruno could see were an enormous pair of sad eyes staring back at him. And I think that he was just kind of noticing kind of the bad things, but not quite judging.
What do you think, Jade?
I agree with you guys. I think that when someone first meets someone, they first judge them by what they look like or how they act.
What do you think what was your evidence that supported that idea?
I said most kids in school are judged by how much money or how many things they have.
Do you think that people could also be judged by like how much they don't have?
Yeah. I see where you're getting. I didn't really think of that idea because I had like a different idea than what you said. And I like that idea. What makes people influence each other?
Okay, people influenced by good and bad and affects everything. I think it affects everything that does so. And then Bruno wanted to go over and he's no, and everybody said I wouldn't. And then he went over and then they went to the gas chamber and probably died.
I agree with Colton, but I also disagree. I would say that it's mostly other people's actions, like, or how you're raised. Because, A, you are probably being raised in a good environment, so you'll be influenced in a good way. Sometimes you're influenced in a bad environment, so I think it's all about the environment or other people's actions. It's like, you might think if someone punches you in the face, that's a bad thing, but if you see someone else punching someone else, as like a tiny kid, you think it's, oh, that's normal.
I agree with you because it said that Bruno kept going to Shmuel and he kept on thinking that it was okay even though his mom and his dad said not to go to the fence, and he never got caught, so he didn't think that it was bad.
I can see what Colton's saying about like Bruno wanted to go over on the other side of the fence, but Shmuel was like, no, it's probably not a good idea. But I said that Hitler influenced so many people into thinking Jews were bad, and my evidence was Nazi soldiers hated the Jews, and so many people, and so did many others, and they were putting them in concentration camps and doing very bad things to them that they didn't deserve, and so they were just being treated like they were being influenced, like Hitler was influencing people to think that he was bad.
I agree with you. What do you think, Genevieve?
I think that other like kids are also being influenced by others in schools by like what's considered cool. So then those kids would go and end up doing bad things like what the person did.
Genevieve said we can pretty much do anything and affect someone or something else. And her evidence was I could take a piece of candy my sister was saving and I could end up with a black eye.
When does a person value others? Well, I think it's all the time people value each other because they're friends and they're valuable to you. And yeah, that's basically all there is.
I see where you're coming from, but I also think that it's when you get to know them, you really value them, because if I see someone on the street, I don't really know them, and it's a little weird.
I said,
Go ahead.
okay. I said people value people for looks, kindness, and sports and other activities, but I also said Bruno never explained how, like, he explained it, but he never said, oh, this person's not smart, or this person, head looks weird, so I'm not going to be friends with them. Like, he just made friends with Shmuel without really even knowing. He made friends with,
I agree with Colton, but I also think that it could also be how they emotional, mentally, what is it? Personality. It's all about personality, to be honest.
I agree with Colton, how he said like how Bruno didn't know anything about Shmuel, and he didn't even know he wasn't really understanding what the side of the fence was like, so he was going in like a risky side. I disagree kind of with everybody, or like I see what you guys are saying about like what Belle was saying on the streets and stuff, like she sees someone, she's like, hi. But I think that during World War II, people valued Hitler and his police and what he wanted. Like the Nazi soldiers had did what Hitler had asked to like get rid of, like bring Jews to the concentration camp and kill them, torture them.
And what I said earlier, I was just thinking that it had to deal with Wonder, because Wonder, Jack became friends with him after the incident, because of his personality, and turned out to be really funny.
I agree with Kira, but like Hitler, all he had to do was just like take one joke and then start a little youth program, start his little own army, and it turned into killing a lot of people, doing a lot of things, and then he got thousands of kids into it. Maybe a lot of them died. And like he thought it was okay, and people thought it was okay. And now like people that might have been at World War II or like Hitler are like, wow, we shouldn't have done that.
Why do you think? How does history affect us today?
Well, like, this is kind of different, but like people still think that blacks shouldn't have as many rights, or like Jews shouldn't have as many rights, or like certain people shouldn't have any rights. But to like people still treat them like they're not important. Like some people aren't important, or they don't belong. Like here.
I agree with Kira. I think that it started with one bad thing happening, and then it just led up to tons of other worse things.
My kind of opinion on it was just a side statement a little bit, but history affects us today by doing like little things like this project. Like if that would have never happened, this would have never happened about us talking about it.
I agree with Colton, but also a good thing about history is it can't repeat itself any worse than it did years ago.
What makes you think that?
What makes me think that is because eventually people are going to forget about the Holocaust, and then it'll happen all over again in like maybe a million years, and then it'll happen again in another million years. That'll be scary. You know, let the ice ages come back.
Yeah, you can finish your conversation there.
Jen said it's a cause and effect. Everything anything you do can affect something else. Her evidence was that Hitler killed a bunch of people, so now we have to sit here and learn about it.
And why do we learn about it? That's what I want. I'm going to put that question out to the next group. Why are we learning about history? And those of you who are like, I would answer that, we'll deepen our discussion a little bit later. Okay, great job. Round one, what are some great things that round one did? Outer circle. Mason?
Good question. Why do you go this way?
Yeah, in a number of different ways. What is your evidence? Why do you think that? Yeah, that helps us dig deeper. That's great. Kelsey? Included everyone. Yep, even Jen, who can't speak today, so she was feeling frustrated that she couldn't speak, but thank you, Belle, for helping her. Yeah, agreed, disagreed, and gave evidence for why. Yes, very good. Belle? I can't hear.
Like coding.
Okay, used quoting evidence, yes, especially when we, and when you said on page 10, whatever it was, 106 or whatever, I realized, oh, everybody didn't bring their books with them from the outer circle. So yeah, using your evidence, you're doing that much better as we grow in our discussion skills. Yep.
They used eye contact and included actual evidence.
Yes, very good. Okay, I don't want to rush us, but what things should the next circle that's coming in keep in mind to make it an even stronger discussion?
They should use like I was looking on these, so I think they should use those.
Using more discussion connectors. Good. Sure.
I think that next time, or like when they do it, they should when they say I agree, I disagree, and they don't say what they agree or disagree with. It's like, what are you agreeing with?
Right, agree with what idea. And that's so good to agree with the idea versus I agree with Jade or I agree with Kira or I disagree. Yeah, what is it that you're agreeing with, not whom, because we're concentrating on the content. Yes, very good.
Moving on fast because I wanted to say what I had for history, but I didn't get time to.
Okay, so moving the conversation along. Is that what you said? Okay, Kelsey? And then
Bringing all the books that you need.
Yep.
Have all your
very good. So you guys actually can leave the books here.
Reference previous books that we read.
Yeah, connect more. Yep. Okay, so quickly, yes, good. Quickly and quietly change spots.
Dang,
Hey, Mason, which one was your I'm sorry, I didn't know that you couldn't talk. I feel so bad. Seriously, dude?
All right. I'm gonna have you guys jump right in. Go ahead.
Why is judging mostly negative?
I think judging is mostly negative because we are judging someone for what they don't have. Because if you judge someone for their like clothing, you're judging them because they don't have what you have.
I think I agree with that idea. I also think that maybe like you want good people to be around you. So if you find something negative about them, you might be a little picky about like who is around you and stuff.
I agree with Mason and Nicole. Like it says on page 37, it says, not the type of children I want to play with, said Gretel. And a teacher and voice, they look filthy. And I think that goes along with what we were talking about.
What do you think, Cadence?
I kind of agree with what Nicole said, and I think part of judging might be kind of out of jealousy or just to start a conversation with someone else if they agree or if they think something, then you might say something about the same person to agree with them.
I hadn't thought of that before, that you were judging someone because you were jealous of them.
Ethan, you have anything to say?
What are your thoughts on this, Amber?
I think I agree with Cadence because you shouldn't judge judge people if they're jealous of them sometimes. And in the book, Hitler judged the Jews because he thought they were not special.
I agree with Amber, but on like a different concept. With judging people, Bruno was thinking Lieutenant Hitler was like a bad man because he kept on calling him man, so he thought he was like a bully to everyone.
I agree with Amber because when Hitler started the Holocaust, he knew he was better than the Jews, so he thought it was okay to judge them badly.
Judging is negative mostly, and there are a lot of reasons why. But what makes people influence each other?
I think actions and words make people influence others.
I think if you do something that stands out to somebody, you might influence them to do better.
I think we influence each other because we try to fit in or be cool. Because you might have done something dangerous because you wanted to fit in or be their friend.
I agree with Mason because, like he said, if you want to be cool, you have to do something like what the community is doing. So most people do that because they don't want to get mistreated or bullied.
How does that relate to what the influences were in the Holocaust?
I think Hitler influenced Germany in a bad way. He had people thinking that he was good, but he was doing these things to the Jews, like the Holocaust and putting them in camps. I agree, and it almost relates to not judging the book by its cover, because like to the people, Hitler had great power, so they went with him and not some other person that disagreed. Just because he had so much power, like if he was some regular person sitting on the streets, no one would think he was right. I think Hitler influenced all the Nazi soldiers to go with him because of what he was doing.
I agree with what Nicole said. Like, if he was just some person in Germany that was telling people these things, but no one actually knew him, people probably wouldn't agree. But since he had so much power and everyone knew him, everyone agreed with him. And I feel like some people may have agreed with him, but others may have only agreed with him because first people did.
So what you're saying is that people only listened to him because he was powerful?
They compared themselves to him, and they felt they didn't measure up to what he had.
What do you think, Amber?
I agree with Cadence because usually people would listen to someone that's like powerful, and Hitler was powerful, so the Germans listened to him and hurt the Jews a lot.
I think the first people that joined Hitler influenced all the other people to join Hitler too.
When does a person value other people in other ways?
I think if you're really close to someone, you value them more just because they mean more to you than maybe someone that you just met.
I think we value each other because of how we look, our actions, and our emotions.
I agree with Nicole because people usually value each other if they like each other, and I like friends.
I agree with Mason because I just think it's true that a lot of people value other people because of what they have, and sometimes might not even like really know them.
I think we also be valued of what social media feeds us. Some people might judge other people because they were overweight, or that's not what the social media says, and so it's wrong. But in your opinion, it's always right. So you might judge someone because they look nicer, but I think that's very wrong, and then you should judge someone for their actions and their emotions.
That's a good point. David?
I think other people value each other because of how good they are at other stuff.
What do you think, Alex?
I agree with Mason because they value them in other ways. If they are, like, when Germany started the Holocaust and Hitler valued the Jews in other ways that
How does history affect us today?
Back then, when Hitler started the Holocaust, it affected a lot of people and killed a lot of the Jews. But today, it affects us by it teaches us about things like genocide and what it was and what the Holocaust was in World War II.
I have something a little bit different. I think history teaches us and affects us not because of the good things but of the bad things because of the Holocaust we have more security and stuff like that and people might be more safe, and if that didn't happen stuff could be still going on like that and people wouldn't be as safe as they are now.
I agree with that statement that we need to learn from history and that we learn from the bad things, because if we had never learned that shooting is bad back in Florida, he could have just went around shooting everyone, and if there wasn't a law, it would have been perfectly fine.
I agree with Nicole and Mason, but I have another thing that I would like to say, which is history can affect us because of the bad things we learned and we can get scared from it.
All right, I am going to have to wrap you up there. You guys did such a good job of your discussion, and a few of you got kind of stuck, and because you were digging deeper, and we needed more time. So I feel terrible that I had to rush you, because sometimes we do just need to stop, think, and let that time be okay. It will come, and you guys were digging. Just a minute. Sit down, please. You guys were digging deeper and having such great discussion. I appreciate that so much. I can see that you're growing and growing every time we do this. Great job. Circle before you leave. I know the bell just rang, but circle what you know you did on your rubric and leave it on my desk. Okay? Great job, guys. Anybody that needs a pass, I'll get it to you.